Today we're discussing the newly released Studio One 6.6, and boy do I have some thoughts. Now before we get started, in the spirit of full disclosure, this early copy beta version of Studio One 6.6 was provided to me by Personas. However, they are not paying me and all thoughts are my own. Okay, so let's get started with arguably the biggest inclusion, or maybe exclusion, you'll see what I mean, to this update, and that is the addition of a brand new virtual instrument. So here it is in front of me. It is called Lead Architect, and from what I understand, this is a hybrid instrument that combines both samples and synthesis, so that is incredibly interesting, and it looks amazing. Now, all of that said, the kicker here is that this virtual instrument will be only available, exclusively available, to Studio One Plus members, and it will also not be available for purchase if you are outside of that membership. In other words, the only way to get your hands on this virtual instrument is if you are a part of the Studio One Plus membership. Now, I'm going to be honest, I was really excited at first because the production community of Studio One has been asking for new production features and tools for a very long time, and at the very least, we've been asking for a new virtual instrument. If I'm not mistaken, we actually haven't gotten a new VST since about 2015, so we've literally been asking for this for years, and when we finally get it, it is behind a paywall. I understand, Personas is trying to make sure their membership is alive and well, and they're trying to push for that, but I don't know if this is the right move. I have a strong feeling Personas is going to get a lot of backlash on this, and maybe they backtrack and change their mind. I don't know, but at least from what I was told at the time of recording of this video, this is only available if you're a Studio One Plus member and will not be available outside of that membership. Okay, moving on to the next biggest update to 6.6 is that now we have a native integration with TuneCore. If you're unaware, TuneCore is a music distributor, much like CD Baby or DistroKid. I've talked about DistroKid plenty on this channel, but they basically take your music once it's done and they distribute it, they send it out to streaming platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, and even social medias like Instagram. Now, this is actually very similar to the integration that we've had with SoundCloud for a really long time. So if I go back to my start page, you can see here in the center, we have a SoundCloud section, and even on the top left, we have a button called SoundCloud Client. Well, in 6.6, you now have a new button next to that called TuneCore Client, which is going to allow you to connect to your TuneCore account. Now, I'm looking at my notes here, and the official text says that the integrated TuneCore Client connects directly to a user's TuneCore account and provides an interface for selecting and uploading songs from Studio One to the TuneCore server for further processing. Now, the workflow for this inside of a song is that once you're done, you would export like normal by hitting the song menu and then export mixdown. And then once you're here under the publishing menu, you would select the new publish to TuneCore option. From there, Studio One would export your song to the client where you can then finish uploading to TuneCore. Now, an important thing to note about this integration is that it is just that, an integration. It makes it easier to upload your songs to TuneCore, but that does not mean that TuneCore is free. That is still a paid service. However, and I'm looking here for my notes, it looks like Studio One Plus subscribers will get discounts on TuneCore plans for the first year. Now, speaking of Studio One Plus members, we move on now to the third biggest update of 6.6, and that is that now there is a new Studio One Plus membership option. Essentially, what's happening is that they're taking their annual Studio One Plus membership, scrapping that, and replacing it with a new one called Studio One Plus Hybrid Annual Subscription with free perpetual license. Essentially, what's happening, from what I was told, is that this works the same way as the annual membership, because if you sign up, the first year goes by, nothing changes, you still get access to the latest version of Pro, you get access to, all the sample packs, all the community features, everything that you normally would get with Studio One Plus, you get when you first sign up to this membership. However, here's the biggest difference. At the end of the year, when your membership is about to expire, you have two options. Option one is to continue your membership, pay another, whatever it is, 180 or whatever. And if you do that, nothing changes, you continue. However, if you decide to cancel your membership, you're going to be cut off from all the other benefits, but they're going to award you a free, perpetual, non-updating license to Studio One Pro at whatever version Studio One happens to be in at that moment. So for example, if you sign up today and your membership ends a year from now, and at that moment in time we're on Studio One 7.3, and you choose to no longer continue your membership, then that ends, but they're going to award you a perpetual Studio One Pro license at the 7.3 version, but that will not update, not even the smaller point updates, until you resubscribe back to the annual hybrid membership. This to me seems incredibly interesting. I've never seen a manufacturer, DAW company do this before. Is this good? Is this bad? I don't know. Let me know down below. Next up, we have some Dolby Atmos updates for all of my people who work in spatial audio, and kicking things off, we now have Apple Spatial Audio Monitoring support. I am not a Dolby Atmos professional or expert by any means, but from what I understand, whenever you're working on a spatial mix, the audio has to run through what's called a renderer, which I believe essentially is just an engine that allows you to place those sounds, those objects in a three-dimensional space. And Apple, being Apple, has its own proprietary renderer that was not previously available to us. So then with the inclusion of this support, mixing engineers who work in spatial audio now have the ability to hear their mix and know exactly what it's going to sound like on Apple Music through AirPods and such. Now, from what I was told, you're going to be able to select Apple Spatial Monitoring from the output section of the renderer. However, for my version of the beta, I was not able to find such a thing. And again, it might just be my version of the beta, but I'm certain this is going to be, fully fixed whenever the final version comes out. Now, aside from including support for Apple Spatial Monitoring, 6.6 also comes with support for AirPods head tracking. If you're unfamiliar, sometimes whenever you put on AirPods and you listen to something that is in spatial audio, it'll make it feel like it's in a three-dimensional space. You can turn your head and the audio will kind of like move in different directions. And that is basically what we have here now. That option I was able to find. So if you go over to the options menu on the render, you can go over to Apple Spatial Audio mode and then select from either standard, head tracking, personalized, or a combination of both. Something really important to note about all this Apple stuff though is that it is only available on Studio One for Macs. Now, from what I understand, those were the two biggest Dolby Atmos updates, but there were two more, and I'm looking at my notes here. You also now get support for Dolby Atmos composite beds and a new mute solo function for bed channels. I have absolutely no clue what any of those things mean, but if you do, you have them now. Congratulations. All right, moving on, we have some updates regarding macros, and I'm always pumped about these because I love macros. They're my favorite Studio One feature. But essentially, macros before were only available on the song page, this page right here where we record, produce, and mix. However, with the 6.6 update, macros are now available for the project page, which is essentially the mastering interface, and the show page. So if you take a look here, I've pulled up an empty mastering project, and if you take a look at the very top, we have this little symbol here. I have no idea what this is, but this is the macros icon. You click on that, and you're going to get the macro toolbar, including the drop-down menu on the left, which allows you to pick from many of the pre-installed macro toolbars that Studio One has available for you. And of course, you even see some of the ones that I've built myself, including the productivity toolbar and the beatmakers toolbar. Now, the same thing happens if you open up the show page. At the very top, you're going to have that same icon that you can click to access the same macro toolbars. This update doesn't affect me at all because I'm just a producer, but I am so happy for all the mastering engineers and performing musicians because now you get to experience the awesomeness that are macros in Studio One. Moving back over to the song page though, the next update has to do with the lyric display. Now, if you're unaware, in Studio One we have lyric support, and I believe it's only available on Pro. Don't quote me, but essentially, if you click on this little hamburger icon here, we can bring out the lyrics track, and you can basically sync lyrics to certain parts of your arrangement. It is really, really awesome. Now, while you do have the option to simply just double click on that track and start adding your lyrics right away, my preferred way of using this is to open up the lyric display, which essentially is just a notepad. And then from here, you can start to type your lyrics and do what you have to do. All of this has already been here, but the update for 6.6 is that we now have the option to invert the colors. Now, to turn that on, you basically want to go over to this first page here, click on the wrench icon, and then select inverse colors. And from what I'm reading here on my notes, this will allow you to change the font color and size for better legibility, specifically in certain lighting conditions. Now, finally, the last update here is that there are some performance improvements to the mixer and the downloads manager in Studio One, which essentially means that things should load a little bit quicker. And I believe with the downloads manager, we also get the option to pause downloads and pause individual downloads in case you're doing multiple. So all of that is always welcome. But there you have it, friends. That is the new Studio One 6.6 update. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the fact that this new virtual instrument is only available to Studio One Plus members? What do you think of this new Studio One Plus hybrid membership? And ultimately, what do you think of this update in general? Is it good? Is it bad? Let me know down below. I'm going to be doing separate videos on the virtual instrument and the new membership options, so look out for those. But in the meantime, check out this other Studio One video right over here.